You know when you look back on your life, oftentimes you have pictures in your mind of specific experiences. It's like a photo album. "14 years ago, I was in my office. It was a Tuesday morning. Kim Montcalm was lying face down on the table, and I was adjusting her thoracic spine. I had gotten to the office that morning at about 25 after 6. I started office hours at 6:30, which was typical for me. It was about 9 o'clock, Tuesday morning. And Kim's lying there, and she looks up at me and she says, "Did you hear what happened this morning?" I said, "No, what happened?" I've been in my office already 2.5 hours. She said, "An airplane hit one of the Twin Towers in New York City." I had no clue. Except the first thought that came to my mind was my best friend, who I'd grown up with since I was 7 years old. And the reason I thought of him was because he was a captain in the New York City Fire Department. He was head of Engine Company 21, Midtown Manhattan. And immediately I thought of my friend Billy. And when I finished adjusting her, I went into my office, picked up the phone, and I dialed his phone number. And I got his voicemail. And all morning long, people were coming in and talking to me about what was going on. Because at that point, only one plane had hit. And after that, I found out there were 2. And I called his home about 15 or 20 times that day. But there was never an answer. There was always the voicemail. And then a few days later, I heard from some of his family. Because like many of you, watching the news that day and seeing those towers collapse, we were horrified at what people can do to other people. As the days and weeks went by, our hope that Billy was alive diminished. That was September. In early November, I was asked by his family to be one of the speakers to give a eulogy at his memorial service in New York City at St. Patrick's Cathedral. They never found his body. And we never truly knew what happened until about 1.5 years ago. What happened to Billy Burke that day. You see, 1.5 years ago, a lieutenant came forward and told his story. And he told the story that he was in the North Tower when the South Tower collapsed. And he was on the 24th floor of the North Tower. And he was with 2 civilians, Ed Baye and Abe Zelmenowitz. Ed Baye was a quadriplegic who worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield. And he was a heavy-set man, and they couldn't carry him down the stairs. And Abe Zelmenowitz was his best friend. And he wouldn't leave his best friend's side. Billy Burke was on the 27th floor when the South Tower collapsed. He immediately radioed. He had, I believe, 21 men under his command that day. He radioed all of them and told them, "Get out as fast as you can." He started descending from the 27th floor, and he got to the 24th floor. And there was a lieutenant with these 2 civilians. And Captain Billy Burke said to that lieutenant, "Get the hell out of here as quick as you can." See, Billy grew up in a family where his father was a deputy chief in the New York City Fire Department. The deputy chief is very high up in that department. You have the commissioner at the top, you've got 7 deputy chiefs below the commissioner, and then you have captains and lieutenants and firefighters. And Billy Burke was a captain, and his father was a deputy chief. And he grew up in a household, Irish Catholic, 6 kids. And this is what his father told him as a firefighter. You get civilians out first. You get your firefighters out next. And you get yourself out last. When he was in that North Tower, he called his girlfriend Jean and let her know that he was okay. And she was screaming on the phone, pleading with him, get out of that tower. And he said, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And she continued screaming at him. And you know what he said? This is who I am. This is what I do. And his father taught him. You get civilians out first. You get your firefighters out second. You get yourself out last. He could have descended down with his men and survived that trip. But there were two civilians that he couldn't get out of that building. Ed Baye, he couldn't lift down, and Abe Zelmenowitz would not leave his best friend. He made a conscious decision that day to do what he knew in his heart was right. He was willing to give up his life for the values that he learned as a young child growing up in Plainview, New York, with a father who was a firefighter. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about my best friend, Billy Burke. And I miss him dearly. And I know that the reason I do what I do as a chiropractor, saving people's lives, is in large part due to the experiences I had with my best friend. From the time I was 7 years old, we were inseparable. Why the hell are we here? Are we here because we want to be on vacation? Did we choose chiropractic because we want to help people with back pain? Do we want to be doctors so we can drive Porsches? Do you want to live in big homes? Do you want to impress people? Do you want people to like you? Or do you want to make a difference in the world? Conformity is killing us. If you want to conform, you can. Go right ahead. If that's who you are, God bless you. I wasn't put on this earth to conform. I was put on this earth to serve. And to serve what I believe is the truth. And that truth is that we are innate human beings. And we have unlimited potential. And you get to choose how you do this thing called chiropractic. And even more than that, you get to choose how we do this thing called life.